What if the secret to doubling your afternoon productivity, revitalizing your intimacy, and shielding your brain against Alzheimer's wasn't a new supplement, but a clock? A biological clock buried deep in your DNA that you've likely been fighting against for the last 40 years. Today, we're ending that war. I'm going to show you how to stop the 3 a.m. ceiling staring and unlock a level of mental clarity you thought was gone with your youth. Here, every protocol in this channel is reviewed by a clinical pharmacist and researcher. I know that feeling. You're lying there at 3:14 a.m., doing the mental math. If I fall asleep now, I'll get 4 hours and 20 minutes. You feel the weight of the next day's meetings, the subtle irritability, that tired but wired sensation in your chest. You've been told it's just getting older. It's not. And you're simply misreading your genetic sleep code, your chronotype. By the end of this journey, you won't just sleep better, you'll live in sync with your biology. Imagine waking up at exactly 3:14 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling in the dark, doing that desperate mental math. If I can fall asleep now, I'll have exactly 4 hours and 20 minutes of rest. We've all been there. But what if I told you that this isn't an inevitable sign of aging? What if it's actually a sign that you're fighting against your own DNA? Today, I'm going to show you how to unlock a level of mental clarity and physical performance that you thought was a thing of the past. Most of us grew up hearing that sleep is just about getting 8 hours of sleep. That's a myth. The truth is, you carry a genetic sleep code, a chronotype, engraved in your genome. It dictates when your brain releases melatonin, when your cortisol peaks, and even the exact moment for you to perform almost any activity with maximum efficiency. By the end of this video, you'll not only sleep better, you'll finally understand the internal clock you've been ignoring for decades. To truly fix your performance, we have to stop looking at sleep as a single event and start seeing it for what it actually is: a complex interplay between two distinct biological engines. Most people in their 40s and 50s treat sleep like a light switch. You're either on or you're off. But your brain doesn't work that way. It operates on two systems: sleep drive and sleep rhythm. Think of it like a long-distance flight. One engine is your fuel consumption. That's your drive. The other engine is your navigation system. That's your rhythm. And if they aren't synced, you're flying blind. Let's talk about that fuel, or what we call sleep drive. Every single second you are awake, your brain cells are eating glucose for energy. And just like any metabolic process, there is a byproduct, a molecular trash, if you will. That substance is called adenosine. As you sit through your morning meetings or drive to the office, adenosine is slowly accumulating in your system, building up what we call sleep pressure. The longer you stay awake, the heavier that pressure becomes, eventually making you crave rest. Now, here's where most high achievers get it wrong, especially with caffeine. Most of you reach for that first cup of coffee the moment your eyes open. But think about the biology for a second. Well, caffeine and adenosine are almost identical in molecular structure. They are off by just one molecule. When you flood your brain with caffeine before your sleep drive has had a chance to reset, the caffeine just sits in the receptor sites, blocking the tired signal without actually clearing the trash. It's like putting a piece of tape over your car's empty light instead of actually refueling. This is why you feel that mid-morning crash that hits you like a freight train. You haven't fixed the fatigue. You've just masked the signal. But then there is the second engine, your sleep rhythm or your circadian rhythm. This isn't about how tired you are. It's about when your body wants to be tired. And this, my friends, is where the genetics come in. It's not a choice. Well, it's not about discipline or willpower. It's about a specific area on your genome called the PER3 area. We all have what's called a SNP, a single nucleotide polymorphism. If that genetic switch is flipped one way, you are an early riser. If it's flipped another, you're a night owl. If it's not flipped at all, you're somewhere in the middle. For years, society has praised the early bird, labeling them as the only productive members of society. But for those of you who have spent 40 years feeling like a failure because you can't focus at 8 a.m., I'm here to tell you, your DNA isn't broken. You were just born with a different operating system. Let's look at the first of these genetic archetypes, the lion. Lions make up about 10 to 15% of the population, and these are the people who send you emails at 5:30 a.m. and have already hit the gym while you're still looking for your slippers. Their biology is fascinating. For a lion, melatonin production stops early, often around 4:30 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and their cortisol, the alertness hormone, starts pumping immediately. Lions are the classic Type A personalities. They love lists. They love process. They derive immense pleasure from checking off step 1, step 2, and step 3. If you're a lion, your peak window for cognitive brilliance, the time when you should be making your most important executive decisions, is between 9:30 and 11:30 a.m. That is when your brain is at its sharpest, but there is a price to pay for that early morning fire. By 2 p.m., the lion is often done. The cognitive fuel is gone. This is why, for the lion, even the late-night dinner party or the 9 p.m. movie is a form of torture. They aren't being boring. Their biology is literally shutting down for the day. Then, we have the most common chronotype, the bear. Bears make up 50 to 55% of the population. If you feel like the world's 9 to 5 schedule actually works for you, you're likely a bear. Their internal clock follows the sun. They wake up as the sun rises and get tired as it sets. But even for bears, there is a hidden nuance. Our data from nearly 3 million people shows there are early bears and late bears. An early bear might be most productive around 10:30 a.m., while a late bear doesn't hit their stride until closer to noon. The problem for bears in their 40s and 50s is that they often fall into the 8-hour myth trap. They think that as long as they are in bed for 8 hours, they are fine. But because society is built for them, they often over-caffeinate and underhydrate, leading to a massive afternoon slump between 2 and 4 p.m. A slump they often try to fix with sugar or more caffeine, which only destroys the next night's rhythm. We have been conditioned to believe that we are the masters of our time, but as we age, we realize that time is actually the master of us. If you are a lion trying to live like a wolf, or a bear trying to survive on a lion's schedule, you are causing a massive internal friction. This friction manifests as systemic inflammation, brain fog, and that deep-seated grumpiness that we mistakenly call getting old. It's not age, it's desynchrony. This next part is for the rebels, the creatives, and the ones who have spent a lifetime feeling like they're out of step with the rest of the world. If the lions and bears represent the social stability of our species, the wolves represent our innovation and our survival. The wolf is the classic night owl, and they make up about 15% to 20% of us. If you're a wolf, you've likely spent your entire career being told that the early bird gets the worm, and feeling like a failure because you can't find your keys at 7 a.m. But here's the truth your DNA knows. Wolves are the risk takers. They are the artists, the coders, and the visionaries. While the lions are shutting down at 9 p.m., the wolf's brain is just beginning to ignite. If you've ever had a brilliant business idea or a moment of profound clarity at 2 a.m., you aren't an insomniac, you're a wolf. The problem is that our world is built for the early types. For a wolf, the morning isn't just early, it's a physical assault on the system. If you're over 40 and still trying to force yourself into a 6 a.m. gym routine because some guru told you it's the secret to success, you are likely doing more damage than good to your hormonal health. For you, the peak window of productivity is late, often between 5 p.m. and midnight. Then we have the most complex group of all, the dolphins. This is the group I actually wrote my book for because they are often the most frustrated. Dolphins are highly intelligent, fast-talking, and incredibly detail-oriented. But they have a very low sleep drive, and their brains are always on, scanning for predators even when they're in a safe bed in a gated community. If you're a dolphin, you're likely a perfectionist with a touch of obsessive-compulsive energy. You don't just sleep, you manage sleep, and that's the problem. Your brain is so sharp it becomes its own enemy, keeping you awake with monkey mind, ruminating on that one comment a colleague made 3 days ago. But here's the most important reflection for all of us as we move into our 40s, 50s, and 60s. Your chronotype is a living thing. It changes as you age. When you were a teenager, you were almost certainly a wolf, staying up late and sleeping until noon. But as we hit middle age, something shifts. Between the ages of 45 and 55, our production of melatonin, that key that starts the sleep engine, begins to slow down or trigger earlier in the evening. This is why you see your parents wanting to have dinner at 4:30 p.m. It's not just a habit. Their biological clock is literally shifting backwards. But there's a darker side to this shift. As we age, we also experience an increase in what we call EEG arousals. These are tiny jolts in the brain that break up the continuity of your sleep. You might find that you're no longer the deep sleeper you used to be. You wake up because the neighbor's car door closed, or because the room felt a fraction of a degree too warm. In your 40s and beyond, the game changes from a quest for quantity to a quest for quality. I would rather see you get 5 hours of high-density, restorative sleep than 7 hours of light, or fragmented, junk sleep. Poor quality sleep is what makes us grumpy, foggy, and physically older than our years. It's the difference between waking up feeling like a precision instrument and waking up feeling like a rusted engine. We have to stop treating sleep as an inconvenience and start treating it as the primary source of our emotional metabolism. It's during those deep cycles, the ones we start to lose as we age, that our brain clears out the metabolic waste, the proteins that lead to cognitive decline. If you're feeling disordered in your sleep, it's often because your lifestyle has drifted away from your genetic code. You're a high-performance machine being fed the wrong fuel at the wrong time. In the next block, I want to address the 3 a.m. math and the specific habits that are secretly sabotaging your heart rate before you even touch the pillow. By now, you likely have a sense of your genetic tribe: lion, bear, wolf, or dolphin. But knowing your tribe is only half the battle. The other half is how you handle the chemical transition every morning. Most of us, especially those of us balancing careers and families in our 40s and 50s, treat the first hour of the day as a race to get online. We stumble into the kitchen, the house is quiet, and the first thing we do is reach for that coffee handle. It's a ritual, it's a comfort. But molecularly speaking, it's a mistake that is costing you your afternoon clarity and your midnight rest. Let's talk about the biology of waking up, to pull you out of the depths of unconsciousness. When your brain performs a magnificent hormonal surge, it floods your system with cortisol and adrenaline. These aren't just stress hormones. They are your body's natural wake-up call. They are far more potent than any espresso bean. When you dump caffeine on top of a brain already peaking with cortisol, you aren't actually getting more energy. You're simply causing a redundant chemical spike. It's like trying to jump-start a car that is already doing 80 miles per hour on the highway. You aren't helping the engine. You're just straining the gears. But the real damage happens at the receptor level. Remember the molecular trash we talked about earlier? Adenosine. Every second you are awake, adenosine is building up, creating that sleep pressure that eventually tells your brain it's time to shut down. Here's the catch. Caffeine is a molecular twin to adenosine. It's off by just one single molecule. When you drink coffee too early, the caffeine rushes into those receptor sites, like a squatter in a house. It blocks the adenosine from docking, so you don't feel tired. But the trash is still there. It's accumulating in the hallway. Then, around 2 or 3 p.m., the caffeine finally loses its grip and clears out of the receptor. Suddenly, all that built-up adenosine, that massive pile of metabolic trash, rushes in all at once. This is the afternoon crash. You think you're tired because of the meeting you just had or the lunch you ate. You're not. You're tired because you hijacked your morning rhythm. This is why I tell my high-performance clients, hydrate before you caffeinate. When you sleep, you aren't just resting. You're dehydrating. You lose nearly a full liter of water just through the humidity in your breath over 8 hours. You wake up like a raisin. If the first thing you put into your body is a diuretic like coffee, you are essentially telling your cells to wither further. Instead, I want you to follow the 15-15-15 protocol. First, 15 ounces of water the moment you stand up. This isn't just about thirst, it's about metabolic lubrication. Second, 15 deep breaths. This wakes up your respiratory system and sends a signal to your brain that the hunt is beginning. Third, and most importantly, 15 minutes of direct sunlight. Why the sun? Because light is the master switch for your biology. When photons hit the melanopsin cells in your eyes, they send a direct signal to the brain to shut off the melatonin faucet. But it does something even more brilliant. It sets a timer. The moment that sunlight hits your eyes, your brain starts a countdown for exactly 14 hours later to begin producing the melatonin you'll need tonight. If you stay in your dimly lit kitchen until 10 a.m., you've just delayed your sleep onset by 2 hours. You haven't even started your workday, and you've already guaranteed a midnight struggle. For those of you who say, but I need a boost, I only got 4 hours of sleep. I have a specific tool for you. I call it the Napa Latte. This is a clinical hack I use with CEOs who are running on fumes. You take a cup of black coffee, throw in a couple of ice cubes to cool it down, and you drink it as fast as you can. Then you immediately set an alarm and lie down for a 25-minute nap. It sounds counterintuitive, right? How can you sleep after drinking coffee? Because caffeine takes about 25 to 30 minutes to pass through your stomach and hit your brain. During that window, the nap allows your brain to burn off some of that built-up adenosine. By the time you wake up, the trash has been cleared, and the caffeine is just arriving to lock the doors and block any new adenosine from coming in. You wake up with a level of clarity that is guaranteed for 4 hours. It's not a lifestyle, but it's a surgical strike for the days when performance is non-negotiable. We are living in a world that demands we be always on, but our biology is designed for pulses. If you can master these first 90 minutes, waiting for your natural cortisol to drop before introducing caffeine, you stop being a victim of your energy levels and start being the architect of them. You'll find that the brain fog you've blamed on your 40s starts to lift, revealing the precision instrument that's been there all along. If you are over 40, you know the ghost hour. It's that window between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. where the world is silent, but your brain is screaming. You've fallen asleep perfectly fine at 11 p.m., but suddenly your eyes snap open. You look at the red numbers on the clock, and the mental math begins. If I fall back asleep in 10 minutes, I can still get 5 hours. If it takes me an hour, I'm ruined for tomorrow's meeting. This math is a trap. It's the ultimate performance killer because it triggers a cascade of cortisol that ensures you won't sleep for the rest of the night. I want to explain the biology of why this happens to almost every human on Earth. And then I'm going to tell you why what you do in those next 60 seconds determines the health of your brain 20 years from now. Biologically, your core body temperature follows a very specific rhythm. It drops throughout the evening to help you fall asleep. But between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., it hits its absolute floor and begins to rise. Every human experiences a micro-arousal during this temperature shift. Most people just roll over and forget it. But for the high performer, the one with monkey mind, that tiny physical shift is interpreted as a signal to start worrying. Here's the first mistake you are making. You are standing up to pee. I know it sounds crazy, but unless your bladder is truly screaming, stay in bed. In order to enter a state of unconsciousness, your heart rate must be 60 beats per minute or below. The moment you move from a lying position to a standing position, your heart rate spikes. You've just told your brain the hunt has begun. If you absolutely must go, use a dim, warm nightlight. Never, under any circumstances, flip on the overhead bathroom light. That burst of white or blue light hits your melanopsin cells and tells your brain that it's 8 a.m. in the middle of the Sahara Desert, shutting down your melatonin production instantly. The second mistake is the pharmacy betrayal. Many of you, frustrated by these wake-ups, reach for the PM medications, the over-the-counter sleep aids found in every drugstore. You see Tylenol PM or Advil PM, and you think it's a safe way to get through the night. But you need to understand what is actually in those pills. The PM part is usually diphenhydramine, an antihistamine. While it might knock you out, it isn't giving you sleep. It's giving you sedation. There is now devastating clinical data suggesting that the daily use of these specific antihistamines can lead almost directly to cognitive decline and Alzheimer's disease. You are trading a night of unconsciousness for the long-term health of your memories. In my 26 years of practice, I've seen this trade made far too often. Why does this matter so much? Because of the glymphatic system, your brain's nightly power wash. During stage 3 and stage 4 deep sleep, your brain cells actually shrink in size. This creates space for cerebrospinal fluid to rush through, literally scooping out metabolic waste and proteins like beta amyloid. These are the same proteins that, when left to accumulate, wrap around your neurons and cause Alzheimer's. Or if you are waking up at 3 a.m. and struggling to get back to sleep, or if you have undiagnosed sleep apnea, you are skipping this power wash. Sleep apnea is as common as diabetes, yet 80% to 90% of people remain undiagnosed. When you stop breathing, even for a few seconds, your brain is jolted out of that deep cleaning stage and into a light, survival-based stage. Data from the University of Queensland shows that untreated apnea increases your risk of Alzheimer's by 45%. It's not just about being tired, it's about the structural integrity of your brain. So, what do you do when the 3 a.m. ghost visits? You don't count sheep, you count your biology. I teach my patients the 4-7-8 breathing technique. You breathe in for a count of 4, hold for 7, and exhale for 8. This isn't woo-woo meditation. It's a physiological hack designed for the military to lower the heart rate during combat. By focusing on the numbers, picturing the 4, the 7, and the 8 in your mind, you occupy the part of the brain that wants to worry about your taxes or your kids, and you force your heart rate back under that 60 beats per minute threshold. And if that doesn't work, we use CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, techniques. We stop catastrophizing. You've survived on 4 hours of sleep before, and you will survive again. The moment you give yourself permission to just lie there and rest, the pressure vanishes, the heart rate drops, and the natural sleep process takes over. Your bedroom should be a sanctuary for recovery, not a courtroom where you judge your performance. As we age, we must become more protective of these hours. We aren't just sleeping, we are defending our future selves from the decay of the mind. We've spent the last hour deconstructing your genetics and your morning rituals. But now, I want to talk about what you're putting into your body. If you're over 40, you've likely noticed that your margin for error has narrowed. In your 20s, you could survive on pizza and 3 hours of sleep. Now, one late-night espresso or a missed mineral feels like a biological debt that takes a week to repay. Most people in our age group are walking through life with a hidden hunger. You might be eating well, perhaps even shopping at the best organic markets in Zurich, or the most curated shops in California, but your cells are still starving for the building blocks of rest. The reality is that our soil, especially in the US, and in parts of Europe, is over-tilled and exhausted. Even if you eat a bushel of kale, you're likely not getting the magnesium levels your grandfather did from a single potato. This brings us to the master mineral, magnesium. In my 26 years of practice, I've seen thousands of patients, and I can tell you that fixing a magnesium deficiency is often the single most effective hack for sleep quality. Magnesium is involved in over 300 enzymatic processes in your body. It's the mineral that allows your muscles to relax and your nervous system to downshift from fight or flight into rest and digest. But here's the catch. Most people are taking it wrong. They buy the cheapest bottle on the shelf, usually magnesium oxide, which has terrible bioavailability. It's basically a laxative. If you want sleep performance, you need to look for magnesium bisglycinate or threonate. Or you can do what I personally prefer. You can drink your magnesium. I want to share my favorite evening ritual with you. I call it banana tea. It sounds simple, almost too simple for a high performer. But the biology behind it is solid. A banana peel has about 3 times the magnesium of the fruit itself. But you aren't going to eat the peel. Instead, you take an organic banana. It must be organic because we are using the skin. Wash it, cut off the tips, and drop the whole thing into a pot of boiling water. Let it steep for about 5 to 10 minutes. The water will turn a slight amber color. Add a dash of cinnamon, which helps stabilize your blood sugar during the night, and drink it about 30 to 45 minutes before bed. You're getting a bioavailable dose of magnesium and potassium in a warm, soothing liquid that signals to your brain that the hunt is over. It's a ritual that creates a runway for your sleep. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room. Melatonin. In the United States, we have gone melatonin crazy. In 1999, less than 1% of the population used it. Today, nearly 30% of adults are popping these like candy. If you are in Europe or Australia, you know it's a prescription-only hormone, and there's a very good reason for that. Melatonin is a hormone, not a sedative. It's a vampire hormone. It only comes out in the dark to tell your brain when to sleep, not how to sleep. When you take a 10 milligram gummy from a drugstore, you are overdosing your system by nearly 10 times the physiological requirement. Your body naturally needs about 0.5 milligrams to 1.5 milligrams. By taking massive doses, you aren't just sleeping better, you are desensitizing your receptors. Even worse, if you're over 40, you might be on blood pressure medication, or perhaps an SSRI for anxiety. Melatonin interacts with almost all of them. It can even affect birth control and diabetes medications. This is why I rarely recommend it for daily use unless you are a shift worker or you are battling the math problem of jet lag. For everyone else, we want to coax your body into producing its own melatonin. And how do we do that? By addressing the circadian pacemaker. Vitamin D. Vitamin D isn't just a vitamin. It's a pro-hormone that regulates when your body decides to flip the melatonin switch. If you aren't getting 15 minutes of direct sunlight in the morning, what I call the 15-15-15 routine, your internal clock starts to drift. You need those photons hitting your eyes to set the 14-hour timer for tonight's rest. Think of your body like a precision Swiss watch. You can't just force the gears to move with a heavy-handed supplement. You have to lubricate the system with the right minerals, set the time with light, and then let the biology do what it was designed to do. If you're struggling with monkey mind, that racing thought process, we might look at GABA or valerian root. Valerian is essentially nature's anti-anxiety tool, especially when paired with the hops. It doesn't knock you out, it just lowers the volume of the world so you can finally hear your own tiredness. But remember my rule. Fix the deficiencies first. Don't start adding exotic herbs until you've checked your iron, your vitamin D, and your magnesium. About 15% of my patients find that their insomnia was actually just a nutrient deficiency that was easy to fix. You aren't broken. You're just out of balance. We have spent a significant amount of time today deconstructing the what and the how of your biological systems, the fuel, the rhythm, and the chemistry that keeps the engine running. But I want to pause for a second, because there is a why behind all of this. Most of you watching this in your 40s, 50s, or 60s aren't just looking for sleep for the sake of sleep. You're looking for the vitality to lead your companies, to be present for your children, and perhaps most importantly, to maintain a deep, vibrant connection with your partner. Before we dive into the sensitive topic of how your sleep code dictates your sex life and your relationship health, I have a quick favor to ask you. We are approaching a very significant subscriber milestone on this channel, and the data tells me that roughly 69% of you who watch these videos every day and find value in these protocols haven't actually hit that subscribe button yet. If this content has helped you reclaim even 1 hour of your life, it would mean the world to me and my team if you joined us officially. It's a simple, free way to support the mission of bringing this level of health education to the world. Every protocol in this channel is reviewed by a clinical pharmacist and researcher. I know many of you are high performers who value precision, and that's exactly what we aim for here. Now let's talk about something that most health channels avoid, but is fundamental to your quality of life: the timing of intimacy. As a sleep specialist for over 26 years, one of the most frequent questions I get, what to write after "how do I fix my insomnia?" is what is the best time to have sex? It's a question that often causes a bit of a chuckle, but it is deeply rooted in your hormonal architecture. Most couples in the modern world, especially in high-stress environments like the US or Europe, tend to be intimate between 10:30 p.m. and 11:30 p.m. On the surface, it makes sense. The kids are asleep, the emails are done, and you're finally in bed together. But from a biological standpoint, 11:30 p.m. is arguably the worst possible time for physical intimacy. To have successful, connected, and high-performance sex, you need a specific hormonal profile: testosterone, estrogen, progesterone, adrenaline, and cortisol to be high, and you need melatonin to be low. At 11:30 p.m., your body is doing the exact opposite. Your melatonin is surging to prepare you for unconsciousness, and your arousal hormones are at their daily floor. You aren't just tired, you are biologically mismatched for the activity you're trying to perform. If you want to see a transformation in your relationship, look at the morning. If you are biologically male, Mother Nature gives you a very clear signal every morning with a natural elevation in testosterone and a physical response, an erection. This isn't a coincidence. It's a biological window of peak performance and connection. When we surveyed people who shifted their intimacy to the morning, they reported not just better performance, but a deeper emotional connection that lasted throughout the entire day. This leads us to the other side of relationship health, the war on the pillow. And I have seen more relationships damaged by the 11 p.m. argument than by almost anything else. Many couples use the time right before bed to catch up on difficult topics because it's the only time they are face to face. But here's the biological danger. An argument triggers a fight or flight response. Your heart rate spikes, your cortisol levels explode, and your body enters a state of high alert. Remember my core rule for sleep. You need a heart rate of 60 beats per minute or below to enter a state of unconsciousness. When you argue at midnight, you are effectively guaranteeing that neither of you will get restorative sleep. You'll lie there, wired and tired, ruminating on the conflict, and you'll wake up the next day with what I call a sleep hangover, making you more irritable and more likely to argue again. I tell my patients to banish difficult conversations from the bedroom. If you need to have a State of the Union talk with your spouse, do it after dinner, around 7 or 8 p.m., so you have a runway to resolve the issue and cool down before bed. Or better yet, wait until after breakfast, when your brain is at its peak cognitive alertness. you will find that the problem which seemed like a mountain at 11 p.m. looks like a molehill at 9 a.m. Finally, we have to address the sleep divorce. There is a growing trend of couples sleeping in separate beds or even separate rooms, and often they feel a sense of shame about it. I want to release you from that guilt. The strength of your marriage is not measured by your proximity during unconsciousness. If one partner snores due to undiagnosed apnea, or if one is a lion who wakes up at 5 a.m. and the other is a wolf who stays up until 1 a.m., sleeping together can become a form of mutual torture. I have saved countless marriages by suggesting that couples vacation in the bedroom on the weekends, but sleep separately during the week. When both partners are well rested, they are kinder, more patient, and ironically, more intimate. Quality sleep is the foundation of emotional metabolism. Without it, you aren't just losing rest, you're losing the best version of yourself. In the next block, we are going to look at the sleep environment, the pillows, the temperature, and the specific physical hacks that can turn your bedroom into a high-performance recovery lab. We have spent our time together deconstructing the invisible forces of your sleep, your DNA, your hormones, and your chemical rhythms. But now, I want to talk about the physical world. I want to talk about the equipment you use every night. If you were a professional athlete, you wouldn't show up to a championship game with worn-out shoes or a poorly tuned instrument. Yet, many of you, CEOs, leaders, parents in your 40s and 50s, are trying to run a high-performance life while sleeping on a mattress that is 10 years old and a pillow that has the structural integrity of a marshmallow. Let's start with the most basic piece of equipment, the pillow. I often tell my patients that a pillow isn't just a cushion, it is a bed for your head. Its entire purpose is to maintain a perfect line from your nose to your sternum. That flat bone in the center of your chest. If your pillow is too high, your neck is craned upward. If it's too low, you're tilted down. This causes a constant, subtle pain signal to the brain, which keeps you in a state of light, fragmented sleep. You might not wake up with a crick in your neck every day, but you are paying for that misalignment with a lack of deep, restorative stages. When you go to buy a pillow, most people look for soft. That is a mistake. You should look for support. Look for what we call a gusset, that extra panel of fabric on the side of the pillow that gives it height and structure. Without a gusset, the edges of the pillow collapse into what we call a knife's edge, providing zero support for your neck where you need it most. Personally, I prefer shredded latex. It's breathable, it doesn't trap heat, and you can unzip the case to add or remove stuffing until the height is mathematically perfect for your frame. This is precision engineering for your spine. Now, let's talk about positioning. There is a hierarchy to how you lie. About 75% of you are side sleepers, and for many of you, your body has a preference. But here is a clinical rule I want you to memorize. Right is wrong. When you sleep on your right side, the way your organs are situated can actually put pressure on your stomach, causing gastric juices to leak back up into your esophagus, what we call GERD or acid reflux. If you are a side sleeper, train yourself to favor the left side. It's better for your digestion, and frankly, better for your heart's efficiency. And for the 5% of you who are stomach sleepers, I have bad news. It is the worst position for your health. It puts immense pressure on your lower back and forces your neck into an unnatural 90-degree turn for 8 hours. If you find yourself waking up with lower back pain in your 40s, this is likely why. Try placing a pillow between your knees while on your side. It aligns your hips and makes it much harder to roll onto your stomach during the night. But if we are talking about the master lever of sleep, the one thing you can change tonight that will have the biggest impact on your deep sleep, it isn't your pillow or your position. It is temperature. Your body follows a strict thermal protocol. To enter a state of unconsciousness, your core temperature must drop. If your room is too hot, or if you are sleeping under heavy synthetic comforters that trap your body heat like a greenhouse, your brain will struggle to stay in stage 3, and stage 4, deep sleep. This is why you wake up feeling heavy or unrefined, despite being in bed for 8 hours. I tell my patients to treat their bed like a precision instrument. We use technology like the Orion or 8 sleep systems, mattress toppers with thin tubes of water that can precisely control the temperature of your bed to match your circadian rhythm. You want it cool as you fall asleep, and even cooler during the middle of the night to keep you in those deep, brainwashing cycles. For women going through menopause, this isn't just a luxury. It's a medical necessity to manage hot flashes and night sweats that otherwise destroy the continuity of rest. Finally, we must address the 5 senses of the sanctuary. Sight. Your bedroom should be a dark room experiment. It's to use a high-quality sleep mask if there's even a sliver of light coming through the curtains. Sound. Use white noise or sound buffering to drown out the world. Smell. Use aromatherapies like lavender or ylang ylang. These aren't just nice scents. They are biological cues that tell your nervous system to downshift. And a final tip for those who really want to master their thermoregulation. Sleep naked. Your skin is your body's largest radiator. By removing the barrier of clothing, you allow your body to dissipate heat more efficiently, reaching that deep sleep threshold faster. If your feet get too cold, put on a pair of socks. It sounds counterintuitive, but warming your feet actually causes the blood vessels to dilate, which helps the rest of your body shed heat more quickly. Your bedroom is the most important room in your house. It is the place where you repair the damage of the day and prepare for the challenges of tomorrow. If you treat it like a storage unit for your body, you will perform like a machine that hasn't been serviced. But if you treat it as a high-performance recovery lab, you'll find that age is a much slower process than you once believed. We have optimized your genetics, your chemistry, and your physical environment. You are now sleeping in a high-performance lab. But while your body is still, your brain is performing its most vital software update of the 24-hour cycle. If you are over 40, you likely have a lot on your plate. The weight of a career, the complexities of family, and the quiet anxieties of the future. You don't just need your body to recover. You need your mind to digest the day. I call dreams emotional metabolism. Think about that for a second. Just as your gut metabolizes the food you eat to fuel your muscles, your brain metabolizes your experiences to fuel your sanity. When you dream, you are working through the emotional states you experience during the day. You are sorting through the data of your life, deciding what to keep as wisdom and what to discard as noise. This is why you go to therapy every single night for free, in your own head. Some people think dreams are just nonsense, but from an evolutionary perspective, that makes no sense. Nature doesn't waste that much energy on a random movie. Dreams are a practice stage. They allow us to simulate difficult real-world scenarios and practice our responses so we don't screw it up when it matters. This is why when you have a massive decision to make, your gut tells you to sleep on it. During that sleep, desperate pieces of information come together. The clouds part, and you wake up with a solution that seemed impossible at 10 p.m. But what happens when this metabolism gets stuck? This is the science of nightmares. A nightmare isn't just a scary dream. It's an official clinical event where a dream becomes so emotionally intense that it triggers an awakening. When you wake up mid-nightmare, you stop the processing. You stop the metabolism. And when you go back to sleep, your brain tries to pick up where it left off, leading to that exhausting loop of repeating terror. If you are struggling with a recurring nightmare or a dream loop that leaves you feeling more tired than when you went to bed, I want to teach you a clinical technique I use with my patients. It's called dream scripting. You have to understand that while you can't always control the first thought of a dream, you can absolutely influence the second. Here is the protocol. Take a journal and write down your nightmare in as much detail as possible. The colors, the people, the settings. But here's the hack. Change the ending. If you are being chased through a dark jungle, don't end it with being caught. Instead, script an ending where you turn around, find a friendly ally, or even transform the predator into something harmless. I once worked with a trauma survivor who dreamt she was being chased through a jungle. We moved the dream forward by finding beautiful flowers she hadn't noticed before, and introducing a protector, a lion named Jack, who she realized represented a family member who had saved her in real life. By reading this new, positive script to yourself for 7 to 10 days before bed, you prime your brain to stay in the dream, finish the processing, and finally move past the trauma. For the high performers watching this, you can use this same mechanism for innovation priming. You can actually weaponize your sleep to solve business problems. Before you close your eyes, don't scroll through social media. That's junk food for your emotional metabolism. Instead, spend 3 minutes focusing on the specific problem you want to solve. Don't stress about it. Just present it to your subconscious. Write it down if you have to. By doing this, you are triggering your brain to work on that specific file while you are in the deep stages of sleep. This is also why I'm so against the CVS melatonin craze. When you overdose on 10 milligrams or 20 milligrams of melatonin, the number one side effect is vivid, intense nightmares. You are essentially forcing your brain into REM sleep too intensely, which can lead to night terrors that make you wake up feeling like you've been in a physical fight. You aren't resting, you're being exhausted by your own mind. I want to encourage you to start a dream journal. Don't ask an AI or a generic guidebook what your dreams mean. They don't know you. Dreams mean something to the dreamer. If you dream of water, it doesn't mean you hate your mother. It means whatever water means to you. Start tracking the themes. Are you usually light or dark? Is it scary or happy? As you hit your 50s and 60s, your dreams can become an early warning system for your emotional health. Sleep is not a black box where you disappear for 8 hours. It is a vibrant, active, and deeply psychological process. When you respect your dreams as emotional metabolism, you stop surviving the night and start using it as your greatest tool for clarity and resilience. We have traveled a long road today. We started at 3:14 in the morning, staring at the ceiling in a state of biological frustration, and we have ended here, in the quiet realization that sleep isn't just something that happens to you. It is something you architect. We've deconstructed your DNA to find your tribe, the lion, the bear, the wolf, or the dolphin. We've re-engineered your morning ritual to respect your natural cortisol and outsmart the adenosine trap. We've even turned your bedroom into a laboratory of temperature and alignment. But as we stand at the end of this masterclass, I want to pull back the curtain on the real transformation. This isn't just about hacks or performance metrics. When you fix your sleep, you don't just change your nights. You change the very fabric of your character. You become a more patient partner, a more visionary leader, and a more present parent. Think about the weight of that for a moment. Most of the conflict in our lives, the arguments on the pillow at midnight, the irritability in the boardroom, the mid-afternoon fog that makes us snap at the people we love, it isn't a personality flaw. It is often just a symptom of a brain that hasn't had its nightly power wash. When we are sleep deprived, we are living a diluted version of ourselves. We are operating on half power, reacting to the world instead of shaping it. I have a wish that I often share with my patients. It's a bit of a dream, but bear with me. Imagine if for just one night, every person in your city, in your country, or even across the globe, got a truly perfect night's sleep. Imagine if everyone woke up in sync with their biological rhythm, with their adenosine cleared and their emotional metabolism fully processed. What would the world look like the next morning? I suspect we would find peace where there is currently war. I suspect we would see a surge in innovation and philanthropy that would dwarf anything we've seen in the last century. Because a well-rested human is a human capable of empathy, creativity, and profound logic. Every great thing you want to accomplish in this life, Every legacy you want to leave starts with the decision you make tonight when you turn off that light. If you found value in what we've discussed today, I want to ask you to do something intentional. Take this video and share it with 5 people in your life. Friends, colleagues, or family who you know are struggling. We are in a global sleep crisis, and the most powerful weapon we have is education. If you haven't already, join our community here by subscribing. We are on a mission to demystify the black box of the human body, and we do it every single day with protocols reviewed by clinical pharmacists and researchers. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. Be sincere. Which part of your sleep has been the hardest to master? And tell me, what health hack or performance topic should we dive into in our next session? As you prepare for rest tonight, remember, you are not getting old. You are simply learning how to drive the precision instrument that is your body. The clouds are about to part. Sweet dreams.